On this week's episode of The Riff, Drew and Martz sit down to talk about investments, but not really the financial kind. You'll see. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to another episode of The Riff.
The Riff!
I was about to say this. Sometimes we have a timer in here that like counts down and it's like beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
And that's when I know I'm starting. Other times it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I don't get it and I don't know why. Technology, man.
Yeah.
Is this when... Am I old?
Yes.
Is that what that means?
Boomer.
When I'm like so frustrated with the technology that's supposed to help my life and I feel like it's making it harder.
Yeah.
It's just more confusing.
Yeah. When I worked at T-Mobile, I worked at the retail store for a long time. And so people would come in for like tech support every day.
I've got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
What was the dumbest thing someone came in for? Of like, oh man, this is user error. Like,
just like phone's broken. They didn't know where the power button was.
Yeah.
And they waited in line and drove. And then they come and start chewing you out, you know? And then it's like you press the power button, hand your phone back, and they're like, I had this UPS guy one time. I can't remember, or like they want things to be real that weren't real. It'd be like, well, my phone doesn't work in this place, and like in the middle of nowhere. It's like, well, we just literally don't have a cell phone tower there. And they'd be like, well, I just bought this new phone and it doesn't work there. What do you mean? It's like, well, actually the phone wouldn't matter because there's not a tower there.
Someone listening to this right now is getting their mind blown.
Yeah. It's like, so you had to explain like how things work.
So you're telling me.
You're telling me. Of course, this was like 15 years ago, so things have changed. But like, yeah, this one time, I remember this UPS driver like had a Motorola V300 as an old purple flip phone. And he literally like, he was mad about like something like that. And then he literally reached back and chucked his phone against the wall.
What?
He's like, like just raged like in the middle of the store. And everyone like stopped. Or like, he was one of those guys, he went from 0 to 100 and like slammed his phone against the wall. And then he was like, something, he did it. And then like, he had the two piece of his phone, like, and I'm like, he was trying to do something to like, anyway. And then at that moment, I'm like, well, he wanted to like return. I'm like, you just voided your warranty, sir. And he just,
no, you did
not. Because he did. It was like, he was trying to, I just remember being like, then telling him like, what you just did now made it impossible.
Oh no.
Like, because now you have a phone that's in two pieces that I can't, but it was one of those things where he expected me to like, I'm like, now I can literally do nothing for you because you just broke your phone. So, and then he freaked out. But it was, I don't know why I'm triggering on that story right now. But yeah,
That's a solid story.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of crazy stuff. People come in all the time with just tech support stuff. Like not my internet, like it was the internet's broken. Here's my phone. And what they actually meant is they forgot their Facebook password and didn't know how to get back into Facebook, but like that's all they knew how to use. So like just stuff like that. I had people who would come in like the state taxes on your cell phone bill would go up and down, like the regulatory service fee or whatever. Sure. It would go up and down like 4 cents every other month, But people come in with their entire like 18-page bill printed out and ready to go to battle over this 18-cent change.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah. You knew all the characters after a while. Like, yeah, they can make. We used to joke they can make a show. Like in The Office, it's like the paper company.
They absolutely should make a show of that.
Yeah, or like So anyway, there's a lot of characters. Cell phone store.
I feel like there have been renditions of that show, just different spots.
One of the stores I worked at for a long time was at a mall. Like the mall is its own subculture.
I completely agree.
The mall is its own little world, and everyone who works at the mall or has worked at a mall knows like the stuff. It's like you have like the Mountie police guys with their hats walking around.
Amazing.
You have all the characters, the flocks of kids. You have the shoplifters. We always had the shoplifters coming around out of Foot Locker. Like so, it was just like watching a show every day.
I've never worked at a mall, so this is educational.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. The food court. It's like a whole. It's a situation. So,
I have not worked tech support for anything, although I did do IT at North Point for a year or two.
Yeah.
Okay. And enough to realize like that ain't going to be my end game. All right. I don't have the gift. I can YouTube things for a long time, but I'll never forget. My favorite one was we had just sent this new computer down to a gal at our Joplin campus. And I was like, like it should be brand new. It's good to go. And she's like, it is just not working. And she's like, I got it to work for a second. Now it's not working. And I'm like, oh my word. And it's all the way in our job on campus. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding. I'm like, hey, and I gave you it. So I feel like I'm responsible of like, I gotta go down there and fix it, man. So I spent a day, I left in the morning, right? I'm driving down there. It takes an hour, 10 minutes to get there. And then I get there, she's talking about the problem, and it was the brightness on the screen.
No.
It was all the way down. And so I did that, and I left, and I was, I was happy I was able to solve it. Satisfactory report, I think.
Yeah.
If I was
Tickets
getting
closed.
starred. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was another reminder of why I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't think this is me. But you know what I do want to do?
What do you want to do? This is a smooth Martz transition.
I do want to talk about the 5 habits for a second.
I was
Okay.
thinking about that.
You were thinking about that? Well, we've got one left.
Yeah.
Walk me through. What have we talked about so far?
Invest in the unconvinced.
This is like you can skip 30 seconds ahead. This is like if you're watching like a Netflix trailer and you're binging it. You just skip 30 seconds ahead and you don't have to listen to the recap. But give me the recap version. What are the 4 we've hit so far?
4 we've hit is a daily integration of scripture, arrows out, Jesus-centered community, and awareness of God's spirit.
I was about for a moment I was going to compliment you in such a way of not only did you hit all 4 that we've already done, but you hit them in order.
I did not do them in order. I missed the order.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
hey, I'm celebrating a first down, not a touchdown. Right
absolutely,
here, that's okay.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Brain juice is running low. Invest in the unconvinced, though. Give me the story on that one. I know what it means, but like, why those words? All these have when these were created. These are all before me, but I love them. Invest in the unconvinced. How did we choose those words?
Yeah, I think the reality is we talked about Jesus-centered community on the last podcast, and it's very easy for a follower of Jesus to be like, I should have Jesus-centered community. And you build your whole life around Jesus-centered community. And again, that's not evil. That's not bad. There's great things that come with that. But very easily, like if you talk to some people would be like, man, I'm not even for sure I know a follower of Jesus. And then you talk to other people and they're like, I'm not for sure I know someone that isn't following Jesus.
Especially in this town.
And either extreme is not helpful for your life. And right, we've said this before, opposite of unhealthy is unhealthy. Like to have no Jesus-centered community whatsoever, and you're like, yeah, I'm just a trailblazer. I'll go do this on my own. It's like, okay, I do believe that there's healthy habits that would enrich your life and actually help you follow Jesus in a more helpful way if you had Jesus-centered community. And the opposite is true too. If you are only around Jesus-centered people, if you're like, my life is church and I show up, 5 days a week at the church and we only talk about this, and I'm like, you are not even putting yourself in an opportunity to meet somebody for a God-ordained moment for you to introduce Jesus to them, or to be the first view of Jesus for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the term invest in the unconvinced. I think the other thing is this too. This is not you standing up in downtown with a street sign being like, repent, turn or burn, right? Like that's not what this is, which you'd be like, preach to the unconvinced. No, this is invest. Invest in the unconvinced. Somebody that is, and that could be somebody that's skeptical but curious of scripture, and not just saying, well, here's the answers, and then walking away, being like, how do I invest? What does an investment look like in someone's life where, and oftentimes an investment, I learn from you and you learn from me.
Yeah.
This is a shared experience, and this isn't one person with all the answers. This isn't a mentorship in the unconvinced. This isn't like these words, like if you really take them at face value and be like, okay, we picked each word specifically, it's making an investment. And a lot of times when we would say, you should invite somebody to church. I've heard a lot of churches say that. All right, you should invite somebody to church. And I'm like, I don't know if you should. I think that you should invest in somebody. And I think an opportunity will come where a natural next step is to show up on a weekend service that's going to be helpful for your faith journey. At the same time, it often doesn't start with zero relationship and a track that I put in their door and don't talk to them. And I'm like, I hope you come on Easter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like inviting church like could be a step in that process, but it's not likely to be the first step. Like people will listen to people that they trust. They will listen to people that love them and care about them. So I think investment, when I think about the word invest too, like I think about long term. Like financial investments are things that are like normally longer term. Like I'm putting something into something over time. So I think it's like, hey, I'm going to be strategic and intentional and thoughtful about my relationship with this person, knowing that I might not take him from zero to yes to Jesus in the first interaction, but over time, can I show them Jesus in a way that causes them to say yes eventually, and not like hidden motives, like I'm only going to be their friend for this purpose, but like, do you really love people? Do you love, Jesus said, I didn't come to heal those, who aren't sick, he came to seek and save the lost. Like he was looking for the one. He was looking for, he dined with sinners, but it wasn't just so he could be a sinner and be cool with the sinners. It was like so that he could offer them life change, and love them first and invite them second, and a lot of times you're inviting people into your life, and in your life, they're going to find Jesus, So I think it's like, how well do you love people? Do you, don't be surprised when unbelievers act like unbelievers, like don't expect some righteous, holy standard from people who are living to serve their flesh and not the spirit, So I think like get around people that are, I think especially now, like for me now, like working at a church, it's like, well, now I'm surrounded more by believers now than I ever have been in my whole life, and so it's been interesting. But I have to intentionally go out of my way now as a pastor to make sure I'm around people that are unconvinced. And ideally, it's with people who don't know I'm a pastor. Because once in a while, it is. Yeah. Once in a while, you're a pastor, like, oh, I better act right. I'm like, no, just be who you are. Like, I will genuinely love you for who you are, and I'm not going to, try to change you the first time that I meet you, So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's something beautiful. It's the difference between having an ulterior motive and an ultimate motive. An ulterior motive is like, hey, I'll be your friend so that. Like, I'll be your friend, but...
the hook in it.
At some point in time, exactly. This is what I want from it. I want you to change. Hey, I want you to come to church. Hey, I'll give you this, but so that you will then do something I want you to do. An ultimate motive is just a way that you live your life.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I truly believe everyone's best life is found in Jesus. And I'm unashamedly, I'm vocal about that. And at the same time, I'm not your friend so that one day you'll follow Jesus.
Yeah.
If Jesus has an agenda, it will happen. And it might happen through you. It might happen to you or around you.
Yeah.
It might happen in a completely different situation. You might not be that person to be that for them. That's okay. But the reality is, if Jesus has an agenda, it will become very, very clear. But you don't have to have an ulterior motive, but you can have an ultimate motive.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get that fuzzy because it's like, well, everybody, and if I really love them, then I wouldn't want to see them burn in hell. And so I need to say, and I'm like, hey, I do think that if you're obedient to Jesus and the Holy Spirit and what he's saying in your life, like there will be an opportunity to present the love of Jesus in a amazingly helpful way.
I think one thing I've taken the pressure off myself in that scenario is like, I have to do my part, and if I love someone enough and invest in their life and have windows and opportunities to share the gospel in a meaningful way. And sometimes that can happen on the first time you meet someone. I've shared the gospel with people on airplanes before because the conversation just went there. I shared the gospel a lot with people who I worked with over the years. And it wasn't that, people asked me, hey, you go to church on Sunday, right?
Walk me through that because obviously there's a lot of people, which there's so many different thoughts on this. And I present my view of people that would say, hey, this is why I want to be in ministry so I can share the gospel all the time. And and then they're like, well, at my workplace, I'm not allowed to.
Correct.
And I'm like, yeah. And the pastor will never get in a position to be able to even remotely be the Bible that they see or the Jesus in them that they see because they're not around them. Yeah. They wouldn't be walking through the doors of a church to hear a pastor speak, but you are God ordained, put in this job where you get to be light in a dark area. And a lot of people would be like, well, there's so many sinners here. I need to move to a place more like me with more believers. And I'm like, no. God's positioned you in this place right now. Now, that doesn't mean that like, hey, if you're an alcoholic, go hang out at the bar because that's where I want to help people. It's like, hey, be smart. There's strategy behind that. I believe God's going to, convict and tell you what you need to do, where you need to be. At the same time, I think there's an opportunity on the table that we run from because we're like, well, it's off limits. And I'm like, sharing the gospel, gospel's good news. It doesn't look like you preaching a 3-point sermon every Monday morning in staff meeting. It can look like sharing God's love in a multitude of ways. And so I'm very curious on how you did that at T-Mobile. If you're like, and I don't even know if it was like, and here's my strategy. It was just like, dude, I had Jesus overflowing in me.
Yeah, I would say I never really had a strategy. It was never like, all right, here's what I do. 3-point system, you know?
Formula, and for $3.99, you can buy a copy of it. 3 easy payments of $3.99. Sorry.
But I was in a position too where like I was a leader there. So I could get in trouble for just sharing my faith in certain ways, you know? And so I had to be thoughtful about it. I had my obligation. I was paid to lead people for the organization, not lead people to Jesus. And some hyper Christian right now is going to be super annoyed that I just said that. But like, no, I had an obligation. Like I signed something for the company I worked for to lead a team to be successful at achieving metrics and results and goals. And so that was my objective. And so if me being overt about my faith caused people to not want to follow me at work, it would actually hurt my ability to effectively do the job I was being paid to do. So people say, well, I could get in trouble for sharing my faith. I'm like, yeah, I could also be wildly ineffective at sharing it because I had to lead a lot of people that are not believers and that were anti-Jesus. Not just like, well, I'm not sure, but they're like, yeah, I hate Christians. Well, they worked for me. So how do you love people and how do you serve people that actively, you know? And so I think like I could tell stories for a long time on this subject.
And there's so many different facets of like, well, then we need to get him out of the company because I want Christians on my team. And no, this lets you be around them. And then somebody might come up and be like, well, Drew, don't you feel so much more fulfilled now that you're a pastor?
I don't.
And not exactly.
I don't. And I think that's like, and I went to Bible college to be a pastor. So for every young person who's like, I want to be in the ministry and this and that, like, I will tell you that yes, part of my job now is studying the Bible and preaching the gospel every week. That is awesome. I love doing it. It's also a lot of work. And it's also like it's a job. It's a lot to do. It's a lot of, you know, it's not as different as people think it is. And like, I was very fulfilled, like, you know, so you home is the center of God's will. Do what God's called you to do in this season. Yes. But there are people, I can name a lot of people in North Point right now that worked for me at T-Mobile that would be like, that guy was my boss. Everybody knew he was a Christian, but the way he did it caused people to not hate him for being one. And people who were believers found it encouraging and inspirational because I would find ways to encourage them in ways that I'm like, they knew it was scripture that I was leading through. So I think if I could give, you know, step one, if there was a strategy, step one is be really good at what you do. Be a very hard worker. Show up on time. Do more than you're expected. Don't look at your job description for what you don't have to do or the limitation on how effective you can be. Like go be awesome at your work and be everyone's favorite coworker, not because you're the nicest person. Yes, be nice, but be like, man, I love working with John because that dude pulls his weight. Like when John says he's going to do something, it just gets done.
He's got my back.
Yeah. And when I had to call out sick, John covered me and didn't make me feel like a jerk for doing it. Like be that person in your workplace. Be the person that your boss is like, I used to talk about, there's a difference between like if John's my boss and like John asks me to do something. John has a to-do list and he's like, I need to take this thing off my to-do list. I'm going to ask Drew to do it. I'm going to take it off my list and put it on his list. Drew, can you go do this? Okay. Typical work scenario. There are people that when you take it off of your list and put it onto that person's list, you never think about it again because you know it's going to get done. Then there are people where you can take it off your list, put it on their list, but it's still kind of on your list because you know you're going to have to follow up 6 times to make sure it's actually done.
I'm not deleting that email because I know I might need to come back to it.
Yes. So be the person that when someone puts it on your list, you handle it. And so like for me, you do not have influence with people in your workplace if you are not a hard worker. They don't care what you believe. They actually are not interested in your faith and your relationship with the Lord if you're 5 minutes late to your shift and they have to cover for you. And I know that's like, to me, I'm like, so step one is be good at what you do and put effort into it and like treat people really well. Through my career, like you'll find a handful, but you're not going to find a lot of people in my previous career runs that would be like, yeah, Drew's kind of a jerk, or I didn't like working with him. I made a lot of friends, and not because I was just like kissing up, but like I just tried to add value to other people consistently. And to me, like, that to me is step one. It's like, be someone that is respectable in the workplace because of how you show up. If you're not doing that, you will never share the gospel with your coworkers. And even when you do, they don't really care.
And I would say, maybe a bold statement, I don't know, but I believe it. I've never been changed by what someone believed, but I have been changed by how someone lived out what they believed.
Yes.
And this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have influence with somebody because you believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
You gain influence in a different way.
Yeah, whatever.
And then it allows an opportunity for you to share good news with them.
Right. You become influential in a workplace because of the way that you work. And you become a person of reliability, consistency, like follow up, follow through, kindness. You're good to customers. You're good at your craft. If you're a salesperson, you're like honest, hardworking, but like hustling to make it happen. You become an expert in your craft, and you have wide open access to every single one of your coworkers because they're like, man, that guy knows what he's doing. That I want to learn from him. I want to learn from her, So when you do that, then it's like, then people actually are interested in then you become an attractive person in a sense of like people are drawn to you. And so then you begin wide open conversations. Like then for me, frequently, I had a lot of conversations in my office where people were talking about career development or growth or how to get to the next place. So you ask them about motivations. Why do you want to grow in your career? Like, what are you looking for? What are your goals? Everyone's got a why outside of the workplace. So to me, like that when you get into that conversation, and again, people often open up in that realm of like, well, I have this goal I want to get to. I want to get out of debt. I want to do this. People's money always ties to their goals and to their life. And then it's like, well, what are you like? Where are you trying to go in life? How's that working out for you? You just
being curious about their life.
Love people. Ask open-ended questions about their life, their goals, their dreams. What are they trying to aspire to? What are they saying? What's it like to be them? Like lead with empathy. Like, and I know that became a buzzword in the last 5 years, but like actually like, what's it like to be you? And then I had countless conversations with people in the workplace about my faith because they asked. And as soon as they ask, because they actually do care what you think because of how you've treated them, now you're wide open on sharing about it because it's like, and you do it in a way that's like, I'm not trying to convert you. I'm trying to share what I can think of it.
You couldn't convert them anyway.
No.
Jesus would.
No. There's one of our good friends, friend of Chris and I, Courtney is her name. And Courtney and Peyton are good friends of ours. They're North Pointers. And Courtney worked at T-Mobile. And I remember she was a high performer. She was crushing it. So she's always these top, performer events. Had no faith background at all, And she would tell you now that, yeah, I'm a follower of Jesus because Drew opened that door for me when I worked for him at T-Mobile. But I remember she was reading a book called, I can't remember what it was. It's one of those popular books on like manifesting, and it was like, well, if you believe it, it can become that. And this weird, like kind of karma spirituality concept. I remember in the break room, like, hey, what are you reading? And I saw the book. I knew what the book was. And I was like, oh, tell me more about that. How's that working? Like, what do you think? And then the next conversation was like, well, what do you think?
And not in a like, how's that working out for you?
Yeah.
It's like a legit, like,
not some snooty thing.
Hey, because that's the reality. It's like, if someone's life is great, a change doesn't even make sense. It's when there's something where it's like, I'm open to the possibility of something else because,
right.
Like, yeah, I've been
They're
testing
thirsty.
these things, trying these things, and I'm coming to the end of my rope.
They're hungry for God.
Yeah.
Everyone's hungry for God. They're looking for it in different ways.
Yeah.
And so the hunger they have is God. They just haven't, they haven't acquired the taste yet. They're like, I'm hungry for something and I'm not satisfied. So everyone has a God-given hunger in them for him, and it's like, so you're trying to help people connect the dots between the hunger that they have in life and the ultimate satisfaction of that hunger in Jesus, And so to me, like that's always a fun game to get to, whether you're sitting next to me in an airplane or we're coworkers or whatever. But you just get people talking, ask questions, to learn and listen. And God, I've never changed a heart. Never. I don't even know if I changed my own. God does that.
Yeah.
And so take the pressure off you trying to evangelize your entire workforce and go love people genuinely, be available, show interest in them, crush it at your job, be whatever your hand finds to do it with all your strength, you know, and then you'll be surprised the open roads that God gives you. But then let him do the hard work. The amount of people that came back around, I saw someone Saturday night, you know, I don't believe they're anywhere close to God, but they, you know, used to work with him, saw him at the Lunkers game, you know, hey, how are you? Good. How are you doing? You know, then ask some follow-up questions. You know what I mean? You know, and it's interesting. It's like, what are you doing now? Oh, I'm working, you know, at North Point doing this thing. I don't think this person even knows what North Point is, you know? But then I ended up doing I was there to do the opening prayer at the Lunkers game, which was kind of cool. So it's just like, you know, like I think you just don't know what every little seed you're throwing in people's lives, you just don't know what might come from that. So be faithful to throw the seeds of love, care, compassion at the right time in the right place. Be very real about what you believe and why. Are there times of urgency? Yes, where like you'll follow the Spirit and be like, hey, I need to talk to you about this. Like,
and usually that hasn't happened without an investment.
Correct.
That I found.
Yeah.
Not to say there won't be opportunities to be obedient when there isn't one, but like usually that starts it starts with an investment.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is kind of in a bubble and they're like, I don't know if I have anybody in my life that isn't a follower of Jesus?
You have to get out of the bubble. And the bubble's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I mean, in a sense, like having a strong community of people that are Jesus followers around you is very important. And so that is good. But you can get very weird very fast if that's all you have. You become like that hyper Christian. You can get judgmental pretty quick. You can be, you know, you always have to seek to understand people. I had a friend of mine that's come around the church some. And anyway, recently they're like, hey, me and my friends are hanging out, you know, you want to stop by? And it was they were at a bar. And so I was like, yeah, I'll come, you know? And so I went to the bar and hung out with my buddy and his friends, and I don't know that they're Jesus followers. I mean, judging by like some of the jokes flying around, you know what I mean? But like, I was like, you know, I haven't been in this environment much recently, and it's not one I'm going to, you know, frequent per se, but also it's like, and I know if you're listening to this, you're like, my pastor went to a bar. Sorry, that's who I am, you know? In a sense, like I'm going to go sit and hang out, you know, and I'm not going to drink with them, you know, because that's probably not wise for someone in my position to do, you know. But for me to be around like and be in environments where you're like, this is the actual world. Now that I work at a church, you know, I can easily get weird. And a lot of pastors are weird. They're like unrelatable. And I'm like, well, I could become that if I'm not careful, you know? So for me, like, I'm in a bubble now and I try to get out of it. Even my kids, like we homeschool our kids for different reasons. Now schedule flexibility is big now that we're doing this. But like even some of their sports teams, it's like, you know, I want them around kids that are not believers because I want them to see the difference. I want them to understand the world they're going to walk into, you know? So anyway, people have different opinions on that, but I would just say, go find a way. You know, for me, like, I had that moment when it was like, hey, if you want to come hang out for a while, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, at the time I was like, I don't really want to, but it was in a moment of like, no, like I need to go invest in this relationship. If they're reaching out saying, do you want to hang out? I make the investment by saying yes. And I can go where they are and be where they are and be with who they are today and love people right where they're at today without being weird about it, you know? And so anyway, man, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but yeah, like you gotta be kind to people. Just understand what it's like to be them before you try to change them. And a lot of times people will try to, they'll think empathy is like, okay, I'm going to try to understand them so I can tell them what I would do if I were them. Well, if I were you, here's what I would do. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're not them. And the more you listen with an actual attitude to like understand, you will find out that people's backgrounds are completely different than yours. They grew up in a completely different world than you grew up in. Their parents were completely different than yours. Their economic status, you don't know what kind of pain, abuse, neglect, and trauma they've been through. And so before you start saying what you would do if you were them, stop and say, wait a minute, no, I'm not them. And I actually don't know what it's like to be them. So let me stop and listen for a while to truly try to understand them before I start offering advice and critique. So I think there's an attitude in there that's helpful that I think a lot of people who are in the bubble lose. And so for me, I know I'm yapping a lot on this one, but I could talk about the subject for a long time because I really care about it. And it's like, man, you just got to love people, serve them. Do not expect people who do not believe in Jesus to live like they do. If Jesus is not God, then you're your own God, and people will live like I'm God and make decisions accordingly. It's really two forks in the road. Like you're one or the other, and so you're either serving self or serving God. And so people who have said no to Jesus, said no to God, and view ultimately their flesh as the thing they're ultimately trying to satisfy, they will do anything and everything under that bucket. That's how they're going to live. Don't pop in and say, why are you doing all these things? I'll tell you why they're doing these things. Because they're hungry for God and they're looking in every reasonable place to find satisfaction. And so when they're doing that, don't be surprised and don't be weird. Don't be grossed out. Don't be judgmental. Love them where they're at and know they're running down that track and that's what it looks like. So anyway, long rants.
No, I like it. I think it's invest without the pressure of convincing.
Yes.
And that could look a lot of different ways. And that could look like, go get a haircut at a new place. Right? You're going to talk to somebody for 30 minutes or more, right? Go work out at the gym with your headphones out. Who knows who you're going to, it really is. And be curious.
Say hi to people.
Absolutely. Like there are, especially if you feel like you're in the bubble, there are routines in your life where if you just open up your eyes, right? Navel gazing. Navel gazing.
It's staring at your own belly button.
Stop looking at yourself, right? Open up those eyes, look out. You're probably doing things that are around a ton of people that you don't know. Yeah,
neighbors.
This is an opportunity to get to know them, and not to convince them, but to invest.
Yeah.
And after a period of investment, I believe that there's opportunities that your faith is just going to bubble out of you, not in and here's why I'm right and here's the way it needs to look. And
if you just listen, I'll go into conversations with people and I have a side goal. I try to go 80-20. I want to do 20% of the talking and 80% listening. And so I talk a lot and I just get tired of talking. So, I just want to listen. And so I'll ask open-ended questions to somebody and I'll have a goal where I'm going to try to get 80% of this conversation to be about them at least. And a lot of times honestly, it's not hard to hit. You can go 95 pretty easily.
Especially, absolutely.
Tell me more about that. Why do you, just ask
your line is, tell me more about that. I like that. Yep.
Yeah. That's a truism. Hey, tell me more about that. And what was that like?
Yeah.
Huh. What does somebody like me probably not know about that?
Oh, what a great question.
What's something I might assume wrong about that whole situation, or like people's jobs? Hey, what's that like? Give me an average day. What do you like about it? Anyway, go into a conversation, try to get them talking about themselves for 90% of the time, and do not try to talk about yourself. And the more you listen when it is time to talk about yourself, you're now able to wrap that entire conversation in a way that's contextually understandable for them. So when you get to the part of your faith that comes out in the conversation, you could say it in a way that makes sense to them from where they're at. But if you don't understand who you're talking to, it becomes very hard to share the gospel.
5 habits. I love how community focused they are, and none of the habits are attend a weekly gathering at North Point. Now, I think the beautiful thing is we gather so you can scatter, right? Gather so you can be filled up and go scatter in our community this week and meet people, have conversations, pray before you go into those. This is an opportunity for you to be the only Jesus that some people are going to see each week. And I would put that, I have total faith in North Pointers being that kind of person in our community. I'm excited to hear the stories. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.